Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. Well, we're back again. You will recall in my endeavours to create the quadra geometry for the pergola or the carport that I asked myself, well, what would it look like if I created a full dome? And this being one quadrant of 1/4 of that dome, I thought to myself, well, hang on, that's distorted. And I thought, well, I think in my efforts to create the dome, I maybe used an incorrect approach. Yes, I could create the carport part of it. Let's just go up into the plan view, but in which which retained the grid-like structure, which it should, but the dome it just doesn't look right, does it? So I drew in this model, which is the conventionally drawn dome, and I looked at it and I thought, well, there must be a way that I can better draw this quadra variant so that it is closer to this. In other words, more correct. And we wind up with this. These two look very similar. But this is a quadra geometry dome. The symmetry in the hexagon has completely gone. It's, well, you could say that through this line either side of it, these are quite similar and these are quite similar, so it would be valid there. But like this one, the conventionally drawn method, these four surfaces are the same when they are rotated round its axis, as these four are the same here. These ones are very much different from the original drawing, so therefore this quadra variant method can achieve a very similar outcome. I'd used, I won't say faulty, but limited understanding of how you draw the points. But where we had the grid and flush in plane combo here that created what I wanted, we lose it here. We don't have the flush in plane sides, but it is more back to like this one where we would require planes to come through and truncate these lines, which I haven't done on this one yet, the quadra version, and I'm wondering when we do that we wind up with this version. What that means is that if you wished to create a quadra dome, you can. But the advantage of this over this is that you can segment it off both vertically and horizontally. I'll take the perspective out and I'll go to the front. Unlike this version where you can see that there is the bottom is certainly flat, but the next level up, the next tier of triangles up, we certainly do not have a flat surface, but we do in this one. Exactly the same. This one cannot be truncated except in its quarters, which is here, but this one can be on the next tier in. I'll go to the plan view. You could eradicate these surfaces and you've got a flat surface. Why would you do that? I'm not too sure, but if that's what you wished, you can now say join this against a wall. Interesting. Can't in this version. And you can't in the method 2 version. So inadvertently, I have created, perhaps or arguably, a better or more useful dome or line of section via the octa process. But we have, I'll go back up to, sorry about swapping backwards and forwards. We've lost the grid-like structure in this dome. We've kind of course, got it there. We've always got it there, no matter which one we use. We've got the section there and the section there, and this is its own area, but we've lost that grid. If I just draw this back closer, I'll say 2 meters, and zoom in, you can see how here in this top one we've retained the grid-like structure. Here, not so much. You can see there you could section through the dome, but because it's all, and as you can on here, but because this was so distorted, it would be a non-viable option, I believe. Just draw this forward, meter. So even though that you could divide it here and through here, to what advantage? Not too certain. But at least here, it's symmetrical on all 3 axes. It's not symmetrical and balanced as far as the triangles go, but we've, I think, stepped forward in understanding how, through this compromise, you could wind up with a more useful dome. As example, if I've moved this across, I can hide this, and we've got this structure where we could place against a surface. Equally, if I move this for a moment and scale it to -1 to make a mirror image, I can draw it back, place it together, and now we've got a very much truncated dome, all based upon this here. I'll group that, and we will look at the next possibility, which is if you wanted this as a, rotate it 90 degrees, but if you wanted it as a roof structure, you can. So I think this is actually not a bad alternative if you are wishing to truncate the dome into smaller sections. Yes, you can use this method if you put a plane through it and truncate these lines, but this is built into the method of construction of the dome. Advantage, disadvantage, red herring, I'd go with any of those, because to get back to a carport type situation, a gazebo, we'd need to do exactly that, truncate this version to get back to something that we could use. But this version I can relegate to interesting but just plain ugly, and therefore I wouldn't want to use this. And what I've done there is I hadn't used the correct combination of arcs that would create the surface points or the hub points. So observations, interesting. Not too sure how I feel about this at the moment, but I think it's at least as I say, a better understanding, and well, it gives you choices where we didn't have that choice before. Okie dokie. That was a reasonable representation of what I was thinking. I've exorcised that idea, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, see you later. Bye.